प्री एवं मेन रो जनरल स्टडीज पई ए वीडियो बहुत काम रे आसीबो वीडियो को कंप्लीट देखंतु आपण जानि परिबे इंडियन पॉलिटी एंड इकोनॉमी रो को टाइप रो ऑनलाइन क्वेश्चंस देखिबा को मिलुची आपण सही हिसाब रे टॉपिक वाइज कवर करिवे जदि कवर करि नांती व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग स्कीम्स वाज लॉन्च्ड इन 2020 स्कीम को नेकी क्वेश्चन आसुची 2020 रे ऑप्शन गुडी को मध्यरु केउ स्कीम लॉन्च करा जायतिला करेक्ट आंसर हबो आत्मनिर्भर भारत रोजगार योजना Which of the following articles makes education a fundamental right for children in the age group of 6 to 14 years in India? 6 ରୁ 14 ବର୍ଷ ଯେତିକି ବି important articles ଅଛି ସେଗୁଡ଼ିକ ତ ଦେଖିକି ଯିବେ article 21A କହୁଛି Which of the following agreements was reached to settle the dispute arising from the communal award? Granting reserved legislative seats to the depressed classes while maintaining the Hindu joint electorate. पूना पैक्ट भलसे देखिकी जिवे ता विषय भलसे पढ़िकी Which 5-year plan emphasized the concept of a growth with social justice and aim to reduce poverty and inequality जेतिकी 5-year plan अछि ता अंडर कोन कोन सब इनिशिएटिव निया जेतले से सब देखिकी जिवे करेक्ट आंसर विल बी 9th 5-year plan ए जगह आंसर दे दिया जाईची सेटा मैटर करनी आपण क्वेश्चन को टाइप रो आसुची सेटा ऑब्जर्व करंतु नोट करि नियंतु जे पर्टिकुलर ए टॉपिक सब मते कवर करियार अछि पॉलिटी रो particular topic economy particular topic clear the opening of which canal further intensified British control over India's foreign trade in the 19th century answer will be Suez Canal what motivated India to adopt economic reform in 1991 what motivated India the financial crisis and the need for higher economic growth other option देखिए जदि the desire to return to the देखंतु कोन देछि to continue the ना to discourage foreign investment in India ना बाकी ऑप्शन गुडी पूरा irrelevant ही आपन को लागिबो the provision for single citizenship in India is borrowed from which of the following constitution केउ कंट्री रो कोन बोरो करा जाईछि भलसे देखि जिवे तो सिंगल सिटीजनशिप ब्रिटिश कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन Under which of the following condition can a bill pending in the parliament lapse? को condition रे गोटे pending हेथिबा bill lapse हो जाए. If the Lok Sabha is dissolved before it passes the bill, Lok Sabha जदि dissolve हो जाउची ताहले से bill lapse हो जिवो. Chief Justice declare ना. If the President of India vetoes it if it is not passed within a year of its introduction under which of the following condition can a bill pending in the parliament अच्छा pending जोटा अछि parliament रे सेईटा पचारिछि तो से हिसाब रे ऑप्शन 3 होछि करेक्ट आंसर pending bill कथा कहिछि से in which year was the central vigilance commission conferred a statutory status जति कि भी इंस्टीट्यूट अछि statutory status पाइछि किंबा स्टैट्यूटरी स्टेटस अंडर रे रहउची से इंस्टीट्यूट तो कहबानी से कमिशन किंबा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विषय पढ़ी की जिवे आंसर विल बी 2003 क्लियर Which of the following article ensure that no individual can be forced to contribute taxes specifically used for supporting a particular religion or denomination answer will be article 27 The consumption expenditure data in India is collected by which of the following? Consumption expenditure data कहा द्वारा कलेक्ट करा जाए National Sample Survey Organization NSSO यार फुल फॉर्म को नेकी भी क्वेश्चन फ्रेम है पारिबो क्लियर Which of the following represents the usual tenure of the Lok Sabha in India unless it is dissolved before time Which of the following represents the usual tenure of the Lok Sabha? Lok Sabha tenure होची 5 years. Which sector in India is the largest contributor to employment, engaging a significant portion of the workforce in 2023-24? आगुरु रही आसीचे एबे भी अछि एग्रीकल्चर मने रखिथिबे सबटु अधिक एंगेजमेंट सेथरे देखिया को मिले. Which of the following articles of the Indian Constitution added by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment in 1976 directs the state to ensure workers' participation in the management of industries? भलसे आर्टिकल सब देखि जिवे आर्टिकल 43A कोन कहूची क्लियर 43A ऐड करागला 42nd कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट रे एमती भी क्वेश्चन फ्रेम हो पारे जे 42nd कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट केउ ईयर रे हेतिला बुझी होची ना नहीं व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज ट्रू अबाउट वर्ल्ड ट्रेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ए जगह रे इकोनॉमी माने इंडियन इकोनॉमी नुह ए जगह रे वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी भी क्वेश्चन आसी पारे वर्ल्ड ट्रेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन डायरेक्टली इनडायरेक्टली इंडिया सहित कनेक्टेड बहुत कंट्री सहित कनेक्टेड कोटा यादरो ट्रू WTO was founded in 1995 to administer multilateral trade agreements. Clear? Next देखिवा which of the following provision of the Indian Constitution directs the state to provide all workers with a decent standard of living and a fair wage? Article 43 ऊपर दीटा क्वेश्चन आसिला गोटे टिके सम पूर्व आम पढ़ले 42nd अमेंडमेंट रे 43A ऐड करा जाइथिला बुझी होची ना नहीं तो 43 रु दीटा क्वेश्चन आसलानी व्हिच अमेंडमेंट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया इज नोन एज द मिनी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कॉमन क्वेश्चन 42nd अमेंडमेंट व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन इन इंडिया डायरेक्ट्स द स्टेट टू मेक प्रोविजन फॉर जस्ट एंड ए ह्यूमन कंडीशन फॉर वर्क एंड फॉर मैटरनिटी रिलीफ 42 आर्टिकल 42 कौन कहूँ इंडिया डायरेक्ट्स द स्टेट टू मेक प्रोविजन फॉर जस्ट एंड ए ह्यूमन कंडीशन फॉर वर्क एंड फॉर मैटरनिटी रिलीफ द अंत्योदय अन्न योजना स्कीम वाज लॉन्च्ड इन द ईयर क्यों वर्ष लॉन्च करा जाइथिला तो स्कीम को नेकी क्वेश्चंस आसुची केमती देखंतो 2000 मसिया व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज नॉट ए फैक्टर इंपेडिंग रूरल डेवलपमेंट आफ्टर 1991 इन इंडिया increased focus on sustainable farming which of the following is not a factor the increased focus on sustainable farming रे किछि भूल नहीं this is not a factor according to Ministry of Statistics and program implementation must be what is the full form of MPCE ये आपनकर CGL एग्जाम रे भी क्वेश्चन आसी पारे ए टाइप रो MPCE रो फुल फॉर्म कौन मंथली पर कैपिटा कंजम्पशन एक्सपेंडिचर देखो जगह बाकी ऑप्शन गुड़ी कन्फ्यूज करने मंथली प्राइस कंजम्पशन एस्टिमेट्स मार्जिनल पर कैपिटा कंजम्पशन एक्सपेंडिचर मार्जिनल प्राइस कंजम्पशन एस्टिमेट्स जी प्रिसाइजली मन न रखिथिबे तांको पई प्रॉब्लम हो तो मन रखिथिबे मंथली पर कैपिटा कंजम्पशन एक्सपेंडिचर व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग एक्ट्स इंट्रोड्यूस प्रोविजंस फॉर रिक्रूटिंग civil servants through a public service commission in British India Government of India Act 1919 act सब देखिए जिबे which of the following articles says that the state shall take steps to organize the village panchayat article 40 to organize village panchayat ए जगह रे देखंतु वीडियो रे ही आपण बहुत किछि हिंट्स पाइबे मने रखि परिबे रिवीजन हे परिबो ठीक अछि निजे पीडीएफ पढ़वाटा भी ठीक अच्छे वीडियो देखा सहित तापर पीडीएफ पढ़वा सेटा भी आहरी बेटर वीडियो स्लो लगे आप वीडियो को 1.25 किंबा 1.5 स्पीड रे भी कवर करि परिबे व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग प्रोग्राम्स वाज लॉन्च टू प्रोवाइड स्किल ट्रेनिंग एंड ए वेज एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज टू रूरल पुअर यूथ ऑफ इंडिया ये समस्त जानी छथि कोन हो यार करेक्ट आंसर DDUGKY यार फुल फॉर्म को नेकी भी क्वेश्चन आसी पारे तो मन रखिबे दीन दयाल उपाध्याय ग्रामीण कौशल्य योजना Which article of the Constitution of India prohibits the practice of untouchability? Answer will be 17. मने अछि ना नहीं untouchability article 17. Which of the following policies is also known as the budgetary policy? या भितरु केउ पॉलिसी को budgetary policy बोली कुआ जाय fiscal policy मने रखिथिबे budgetary policy is fiscal policy. 97th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2011 gave constitutional status and protection of which of the following? A question बहुत important 2011 रो 97th Constitutional Amendment आम ओडिसा पई भी important ओडिसा जीके हिसाब रे cooperative societies clear which of the following British legislation established the post of Governor General of India? ये भी बहुत important 1833 गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ इंडिया ए पोस्ट रो एस्टैब्लिशमेंट करा गला चार्टर एक्ट रो जति भी चार्टर एक्ट अछि देखि जिबे ए क्वेश्चन सब आपनकर प्री मेन पई काम रे आसीबो व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग एग्रीकल्चरल डेवलपमेंट इनिशिएटिव इन इंडिया फोकस्ड ऑन हाई यील्डिंग वेराइटीज ऑफ सीड्स ग्रीन रिवोल्यूशन ठीक अच्छे व्हाइट रिवोल्यूशन आत्मनिर्भर ऑयल सीड्स अभियान जल शक्ति अभियान बाकी गुड़ा इरिलेवेंट अच्छी पीएम पोषण स्कीम प्रोवाइड्स ए मिड डे मील्स टू चिल्ड्रेन स्टडीइंग इन को क्लास रु को क्लास पर्यंत गवर्नमेंट एंड गवर्नमेंट एडेड स्कूल ऑप्शन देखो क्लास 1 to 5 दे देछि जने कंफ्यूज हो हाँ 1 ରୁ 5 पर्यंत दिया जाउछि क्लास 1 ରୁ 12 लिखि देछि जगह गवर्नमेंट एडेड एंड प्राइवेट जगह ऐड कर देछि जोटा कि नुह क्लियर ऑप्शन 2 इज अप्रोप्रिएट नेक्स्ट देखिबा इंडिया becomes the major exporter of which of the following products under British colonial rule raw silk ठीक अछि what was the central feature of the industrial policy resolution of 1956 in India what was the central feature of the industrial policy resolution of 1956 allocation of a key industries to the public sector allocation of a key industries to the public sector abolition of the licensing system na on restricted entry of foreign na complete privatization na देखो बाकी ऑप्शन गुडियो सबले देखिबे टिके केते इरिलेवेंट अछि which of the following schemes is not aimed at improving the food and nutritional status of the poor not aimed at improving midday meal scheme obviously improve karibo nutritional status of the poor public distribution system जोटा कि PDS integrated child development scheme yes national rural livelihood mission या सहित किसी लिंक नहीं न्यूट्रिशन रा क्लियर which of the following is a multinational automobile company बाटा नेस्ले डाबर वोल्क्सवैगन जोटा कि व्हीकल आसे तार सेटा होची मल्टीनेशनल ऑटोमोबाइल कंपनी which article of the Indian Constitution delineates the composition of the Council of States क्वेश्चन ने पचाला which article of the Indian Constitution delineates या माने होची ब्रीफली माने प्रिसाइजली कहबा बुझियो जे नै प्रिसाइजली कहूची कंपोजिशन ऑफ द काउंसिल ऑफ स्टेट्स आर्टिकल 81 ठीक अच्छे तो आर्टिकल 80 ऊपर क्वेश्चन आसला एपर्यंत आम जी भी देखले आर्टिकल 21 ऊपर क्वेश्चन आसला 43 42 40 हाँ ना आउ गोटे बोधे 27 गला 17 भी गोटे गला अनटचेबिलिटी आगू आहरी भी आप पाइबे तो आर्टिकल्स भलसे देखिकी जीवे which of the following constitutional provisions restricts Indian citizens from receiving titles conferred by foreign states जने गोटे टाइटल को कैरी करके बुली पारिबो नाही आर्टिकल 18 कहूची क्लियर which of the following was a key feature of the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana launched in 2016 and how did it aim to support farmers Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana low premium rates provided comprehensive crop insurance मन रहा Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana low premium rates provided comprehensive crop insurance which of the following articles in the Constitution of India provides for the vice president to assume the role of president when the office of the president becomes vacant president nahanti se jaga re vice president ro role play karibe माने तांको ऑफिस होल्ड करिवे सेटा मेंशन करा जाय जे आर्टिकल 65 रे ठीक अछि इजी टू रिमेंबर which of the following provisions of the Indian Constitution directs the state to promote the welfare of the people by ensuring justice in social economic and political spheres article 38 कहूची कौन कहूची the state to promote welfare of the people by ensuring justice in social economic and political spheres which of the following is not a feature of the DPSP या तो कोडा DPSP रो feature नुह they are enforceable by courts they aim to establish social and economic democracy ठीक अछि they are non justiciable they guide the government in making laws ठीक अछि कहछि not a feature so they are enforceable by the courts DPSP. Under which article of the Indian Constitution is it mandated that the Union and State Public Service Commission conduct examination for appointments to the services of the Union and the services of the state respectively? यूनियन एवं स्टेट जोटा कि यूपीएससी एवं स्टेट पीएससी कंडक्ट करिवो एग्जाम आर्टिकल 320 रे कुआ जाइछि. Under which provision of the Indian Constitution is the state empowered to make special provisions for women and children? जणे देखो ए जारे क्वेश्चन देछि अंडर व्हिच प्रोविजन ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इज द स्टेट एम्पावर्ड टू मेक स्पेशल प्रोविजन फॉर वुमेन एंड चिल्ड्रन. आर्टिकल 15 जे मन रखिथिबो से हां क्लिक कर दबो. जदी ए जगह रे एमिति देला आर्टिकल 15 1 15 2 15 3 15 4 देन जन को से कंफ्यूज करि पारे एंड क्वेश्चन हमें कहि पारे डिफिकल्ट. ठीक है जे जगह रे तो पूरा आर्टिकल ही अलग लिखि देछि से क्लियर. तो से में टिके ऑप्शन इजी हे जिवो. Which of the following articles of the Indian Constitution directs the state to ensure that every citizen, regardless of gender, has an adequate means of livelihood? Article 39 ऊपर दी थरो क्वेश्चन आसिला क्लियर. According to the Industrial Policy Resolution 1956 again question आसिला 1956 Industrial Policy Resolution ऊपर industries were classified into dash category. 3 कैटेगरी कौन कौन सब थिला शेड्यूल ए बी सी थिला से जारे महालानोबिस मॉडल समथिंग थिला मध्य क्लियर. नेक्स्ट डिटेल ताको भी देखि जिवे. एज एन इमीडिएट मेजर टू रिजॉल्व द बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट्स क्राइसिस इन व्हिच ईयर वाज द इंडियन रूपी डिवैल्यूड अगेंस्ट फॉरेन करेंसीज. 1991 जो रिफॉर्म हेथिला ता विषय टिके पढि कि जिवे. Next, under which article of the Constitution of India is the office of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India established? मने रखिबे क्या आग्र ऑफिस रो एस्टैब्लिशमेंट 148 article. Which of the following did the British government set off in November 1927 as a 7-member statutory body to report on the efficacy of the administrative provisions outlined by the Government of India Act of 1919? 1927 नवेम्बर साइमन कमिशन. आ किछि लिंक अछि के जगह देखंतु किछि लिंक अछि कि which of the following policy changes under the economic reforms 1999 to 2004 was most crucial in enhancing India's integration with the global economy? Which of the following policy changes under the economic reforms? Liberalization of foreign exchange regulations under FEMA. FEMA हला कौन फॉरेन एक्सचेंज मैनेजमेंट एक्ट अंडर रे क्लियर. नेक्स्ट, which of the following constitutional amendments in India was enacted to remove the right to property from fundamental right to facilitate the implementation of a directive principle? 44th amendment केबे हितला आकु नेकी भी क्वेश्चन आसी पारे 1978. What was the primary focus of the Indian government's economic policy in the early decades after independence? Export promotion, globalization, liberalization, import substitution. What was the primary focus of the Indian government's economic policy in the early decades after independence? जो माने भी क्वेश्चन से सब एपर्यंत देखुचंती आश्योर हे जानतु जे ए टाइप रो क्वेश्चन ही आपण पाइबे इधर मेन रे नले प्रीलिम रे पॉलिटी ऊपर एवं इकोनॉमी ऊपर बेस करिकी. ठीक अछि. और रहला ओडिसा रो इकोनॉमी बेसी किछि नाही तार हिस्ट्री नाही बेसी. जदी भी आसीबो सर्वे रिपोर्ट रो आसीबो नले बजेट रो आसीबो. अदरवाइज तार हिस्ट्री एते डिटेल नाही. Which act transfer legislative authority to the constituent assemblies of India and Pakistan? Government of India Act 1947, 1935, 1919 ये सब देखी की जिवे. Which of the following leaders announced the communal award in August 1932 introducing separate electorates for various minority communities in India? Ramsay MacDonald, Ramsay McDonald. Which article of the Indian Constitution states that there shall be a parliament for the union which shall consist of the president and two houses to be known respectively as the Council of States and the House of the People? Article 79. डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन डायरेक्ट आर्टिकल ऊपर बेस करके आपण एमिति भी कहि परिबे आर्टिकल रो डेफिनेशन क्वेश्चन रे ही मेंशन करा जाईची. Special economic zones in India are primarily established to encourage foreign firms through tax incentive, promote traditional agriculture, no, take over existing industry by the state, no, limit inflow of a foreign investment, no, encourage foreign firms through tax incentive. What is the biggest source of electricity generation in India? As of now, thermal power plants are the biggest source of electricity generation in India. Article 5 to 11 of the Indian Constitution deal with citizenship in India. Common question. In which of the following years was the Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Urbarak Pariyojana One Nation One Fertilizer launched? केबे लॉन्च हला? स्कीम को नेकी को टाइप रो क्वेश्चन आसुची तार लॉन्च ईयर को नेकी क्लियर. आई थिंक मो जदी चेष्टा करिवि गोटे वीडियो आनिया पई जोतरे कि जते भी सेंट्रल स्कीम अछि तार लॉन्च ईयर मेंशन हेतिबो सेथिरे. ठीक अछि. In the context of India's economic policies, what was the primary focus of the technology policy statement of 1983? What was the primary focus of the technology policy statement of 1983? Attain technological competence and self-reliance. Attain technological competence and self-reliance. Which of the following denotes the period for which a Rajya Sabha member in India is elected? Lok Sabha 5, Rajya Sabha 6. Now, which of the following policy initiatives was aimed at improving the rural credit system in India during the 1980s? Which policy initiative was aimed at improving the rural credit system? Rural credit system, formation of regional rural bank. ठीक अच्छे. NABARD etc. देखिए भी confuse करी पारे option. Which of the following articles of the Indian Constitution encourages the state to foster respect for international law and treaty obligations? Article 51. Direct definition. कौन कहूँ स्टेट को? Encourage the state to foster respect for international law and treaty obligations. Which of the following made India a destination for global outsourcing in the post-reform period? Low wage rates. Which of the following made India a destination for global outsourcing in the post-reform period? Low wage rate, high cost of skilled labor तो नहीं, non-availability of skilled manpower कोई परिवार नहीं, high wage rates तो chance नहीं. Which committee recommendation led to large-scale banking reforms post-liberalization? By the way, जतिकी भी कमिटी एसोसिएट अछंती रिफॉर्म रे से सब भी देखिबे कहार रिकमेंडेशन रे कोन होइतिला. नरसिंहम कमिटी led to large scale banking reforms post liberalization. The major focus of the Make in India program is manufacturing, trade, agriculture, services. Manufacturing, Make in India. What is the women oriented community based poverty reduction program in Kerala called? एटा तो मु भी जान नथिली सुनी नथिली. What is the women oriented community based poverty reduction program in Kerala called? Kudum Basri. ठीक अछि, Kudum Basri. Which of the following principles underpins the division of powers between the union and the state government in India? That is federal. Question is it? Which of the following articles in India specifies that directive principles are non-justiciable but crucial for the governance of the country? Article 37 कहूची. Definition. NIP in the context of infrastructure in India stands for NIP ର full form କ'ଣ National Innovation Proposal ସବୁ ଜାଗାରେ proposal ଲେଖି ଦିଆଯାଇଛି ଏ ଜାଗାରେ National Infrastructure Pipeline. What is the primary function of the Ethics and Privileges Committee in the Indian Parliament? Primary function of the Ethics and Privileges Committee to investigate allegations of misconduct by members of Parliament. गोटे committee exist करूची जानिथिलो ना नहीं which of the following reports defines human development as given below को report केउ organization दोची से सब वीडियो देखि नेबे human development is the process of enlarging people's choices as well as raising the level of well-being achieved. UN human development report ठीक अछि UN United Nations human development report. Which of the following माने केउ organization को report publish करछि से सब देखिबे Which of the following articles in the Constitution of India provides the Parliament the power to admit states into the Union or create a new one under suitable condition? कौन कहला जगह रे Which of the following articles in the Constitution of India provides the Parliament the power? Parliament को से power दोजी Article 2 to admit states into the Union or create a new ones under suitable condition. State create करा जाई परिबो through Parliament. Which 5-year plan was introduced immediate after 1991 liberalization, privatization, globalization reform? 8th year wise mane rakhi jibe. Which of the following articles of the Indian Constitution ensures that children under 14 are engaged in the employment in mines, factories or other hazardous occupation? Article 24 विषय को चाइल्ड लेबर ठीक अच्छे Article 23 24 भीतर कंफ्यूज हेबेनी चाइल्ड लेबर Article 24. Which of the following is not a part of fundamental duties? Option गुड़िक मध्यरु कोटा part of fundamental duty नुह freedom of assembly without arms. Not a part of fundamental duty. Then part of fundamental duty here is the noble ideals of the freedom struggle. Uphold India's sovereignty, unity, integrity, defend the country and serve when required. What is the primary qualification required to be appointed as the Attorney General of India? Must be qualified to be a Supreme Court judge. Then jayki Attorney General of India. Hey paribo jane. Attorney General of India then Advocate General upre bhi question asi pare. Clear? From which of the following countries were the 5-year plans borrowed in India? Soviet Union 5-year plan ana jaichi. In national income accounting, what does the N stand for in GNI? AN ro full form kono? National GNI ro full form kono? Gross national income. Which of the following articles of the Constitution of India deals with the establishment of a Finance Commission of India? केउ आर्टिकल मेंशन करा जायछि एस्टैब्लिशमेंट ऑफ फाइनेंस कमिशन ऑफ इंडिया 280 मन रखितो एटा बहुत इंपोर्टेंट. Which of the following best describes the subject of Article 23 of the Indian Constitution? Article 23 रो डेफिनेशन ही मेंशन करा जायछि राइट टू प्रोटेक्शन अगेंस्ट एक्सप्लॉइटेशन इंक्लूडिंग फोर्स लेबर एंड ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग. ठीक अछि क्लियर. Which of the purpose of what is the purpose of a 93rd Constitutional Amendment Act 2005? केते नंबर Constitutional Amendment Act केउ ईयर रे होछि ताकू भी नोट करिवे. To provide special provision for the socially and economically educationally backward classes in the educational institution including private educational institution. To provide special provision for SEBC. Clear? Kete number 93rd to 2005. Which of the following acts changed the title of the Central Legislative Council to that of the Imperial Legislative Council? Which of the following act changed the title of the Central Legislative Council to that the Imperial Legislative Council? Indian Council Act 1909. ठीक अछि. Which of the following characteristics best describes the Indian economy at the time of independence? ए गोटे गोटे शिफ्ट रो क्वेश्चन पाखापाखि 15टा अछि पॉलिटी टू इकोनॉमी आम केवल 15टा क्वेश्चन को जब डिस्कस करवा पाखापाखि 15 ରୁ 20 मिनट पड़ेगा। तो लास्ट मोमेंट रे बेटर स्पीड रे कवर कर थरे थरे आखि देखु एवं कान शुणु एवं पढ़ो जदि तो आहरी भल बुझी होची ना नहीं। तापर पर्टिकुलर जोटा मने पड़नी जो आर्टिकल विषय मने पड़नी ताकू थरे देखिदब गूगल सर्च करी कि निज नोट रू देखिनब कि बुक रू देखिदब। दिस इज द वे लास्ट मोमेंट रे which of the following characteristics best describes the Indian economy at the time of independence? Predominant reliance on agriculture with a low productivity. Independence time रे हम इंडियन इकोनॉमी विषय describe करूची कोन predominant reliance on agriculture with a low productivity. What is the effect of improved transportation infrastructure on a nation's economy? Improved transportation infrastructure nation रे economy रे कौन effect करे? Enhances trade efficiency and reduces cost. Increase unemployment reduces foreign investment. बाकी सब देखो लास्ट 4 नंबर ऑप्शन कौन देछि? Increase pollution without any benefits. कौन कहबा? In which year was the first Finance Commission of India established? ये बहुत कॉमन क्वेश्चन है, बहुत जानिया दरकार 1951 बोली। Which of the following article of the Indian Constitution directs the state to prevent the intake of intoxicating drinks and harmful drugs? Article 47. Article 47. Which constitutional amendment bifurcated the National Commission for SC ST into two separate bodies? Co constitutional amendment divide kala National Commission for SC and ST? 89th to 2003 89th to the 2003 मन रखिबे ये बहुत इंपोर्टेंट। Which of the following is not a mechanism utilized within the fiscal policy? Subsidies अच्छी fiscal policy रे taxation अच्छी government spending अच्छी private investment नहीं, not mechanism. India became the major exporter of which of the following products under British colonial rule? A question repeat है question. Raw cotton, silk, raw cotton, silk लिखा जाइतला एप्लीकेशन पूर्वरु। Which of the following articles of the Indian Constitution embodies the principle of equality before the law and equal protection of the laws? Article 14. Equal protection of the law, equality before the law. The creation of the networks and activities transcending economic, social and geographical boundaries is called? The creation of networks and activities transcending economic, social, geographical boundaries is called ताको ग्लोबलाइजेशन कहबा। देखो ग्लोबल माने ए जगह ट्रांसेंडिंग रो मीनिंग कोन? आपनकर एरिया एति की अछि जो जगह कि आपनकर ऑपरेट सब चल छै ताको धीरे धीरे आपन सब आडे स्प्रेड कले, दैट इज कॉल्ड ग्लोबलाइजेशन। हां ना नहीं? The Make in India scheme of the Indian government is administered by which ministry? Make in India केउ ministry under आसुची? Ministry of Commerce and Industry मने रखिथिबे, important आसीबो। Which of the following was a major challenge faced by the Indian economy immediately after the country gained independence in 1947? Large scale migration, resource distribution issue, excessive foreign debt for a colonial rule, absence of a structured taxation system, massive industrialization with no skilled labor. So unnecessary देइछि। Option 2 will be correct answer. Large scale immigration and resource distribution issues सेतेबेले एते डेवलप नथिला। Which among the following provisions of Indian Constitution obliges the state to encourage the development of cottage industries in rural areas on an individual or cooperative basis? Cottage industry कथा कहूची। Article 43 will be correct answer। मने रखिथे क्वेश्चन आसे। Which of the following statements is related to the protection of a Civil Rights Act 1955? Protection of a Civil Rights Act 1955 statement: offenders who preach and practice untouchability must be punished in accordance with the Act. Protection of a Civil Rights Act 1955. Offenders who preach and practice untouchability must be punished in accordance with the Act. In which, go a second. In which year was Hindustan Steel Limited established? Hindustan Steel Limited established केबे हैतला 1954 जति कि भी पब्लिक सेक्टर अच्छी सब PSU जति कि अच्छी सेंट्रल भी जति कि अच्छी सेमानकर एस्टाब्लिशमेंट केबे हैतला से सब भी देखिबे जेंति कि हाल एटसेट्रा Which of the following legislation officially designated the Governor General as the Viceroy to represent the British Crown in India? A question repeat hela. Which of the following legislation officially designated the Governor General as the Viceroy to represent the British Crown in India? 1858 Government of India Act. अब भूलना को था यदि कैनिंग after Lord Dalhousie. Which of the following schemes was revamped as Ajivika, Din Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Rural Livelihood Mission, DAYNRLM, SGSY, स्वर्ण जयंती ग्रामीण स्वरोजगार योजना, स्वर्ण जयंती ग्रामीण स्वरोजगार योजना. What was Granville Austin's perspective on the Directive Principle? What is Granville Austin's perspective on the Directive Principle? They further the goals of the social revolution. They further the goals of the social revolution. Which of the following acts established the authority of a board of control to guide Indian administration under the East India Company? Which of the following act तो सब देखी कि जिबे हो Pitt's India Act 1784 स्टार्ट करेगी 1833 पर्यंत 1833 कौन सबू एक्ट तो देखी जिबे मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री समय सबू एक्ट देखी कि जिबे क्लियर. Pitt's India Act 1784 कौन करूची establish the authority of a board of a control to guide Indian administration under the East India Company. The human development paradigm has 4 essential components. Which of the following not one of them? Human development paradigm has 4 essential components. तो which of the following is not पचारला तो यार आंसर हम सबस्टैंडर्ड कंडीशन माने जो चारिटा ता भितर तीनटा हला गोटे हला प्रोडक्टिविटी गोटे हला एम्पावरमेंट आ गोटे हला सस्टेनेबिलिटी आ गोटे कोन रहिला आ गोटे हला इक्विटी क्लियर ए चारटा को मने रखि दिबे. नेक्स्ट which of the following constitutional provisions deals with the appointment of the finance commission by the president of India? A question repeat हेची appointment of finance commission by the president of India, article 280. Which of the following legislation led to Burma being administratively separated from India under the British rule? ये जीके रे बहुत क्वेश्चन आसे यहाँ पर बेस करके ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रहेगा. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट 1935 बर्मा म्यांमार. The 7th schedule of the Constitution of India deals with which of the following? 7th schedule कौन से मेंशन अच्छी बाय द वे आमर पार्ट्स को नहीं कि स्केड्यूल को नहीं कि आर्टिकल को नहीं कि सेपरेट सब वीडियोस करी जो देखी ना देखी नेबे. Allocation of powers between union and states बहुत पॉपुलर एंड बहुत इंपोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन माने एवरग्रीन क्वेश्चन आमे कहबा. 7th schedule of the Constitution of India deals with which of the following? Allocation of powers between union and states. When did the Foreign Exchange Management Act come into force in India? When did the Foreign Exchange Management Act FEMA टीएसएम पूर्व कहते केबे यार एनफोर्समेंट है इंडिया रे 2000 जून 1 क्लियर. To fill the gap in the formal credit system, which type of group has emerged in India? To fill the gap in the formal credit system, which type of group has emerged in India? Self-help group. So what is self-help groups अच्छी बताओ ना. Who among the following appoints the leader of the house in the Rajya Sabha, a position typically held by a senior minister? Leader of the house in the Rajya Sabha, Prime Minister of India. Next, in India's early 5-year plan, 1950s, 1970s, what was the main rationale for expanding the public sector? To promote heavy industrialization and build basic industry like steel, power and transport. Who appoints the chairman and members of the Union Public Service Commission of India? ये बहुत common question. Answer will be President of India. Which of the following countries acted as the model for the DPSP in the Indian Constitution? DPSP code was Ireland. Under which of the following conditions can Indian citizenship not be provided? Under which of the following conditions can Indian citizenship not be provided? Acquisition of property. Citizenship पाइबार बहुत गुड़िया क्राइटेरिया अच्छी से गुड़िक भी देखिकी जिबे. Naturalization ठीक अच्छी, birth ठीक अच्छी, descent ठीक अच्छी, acquisition of property रे citizenship दिया जीव नहीं. The centrally sponsored scheme UMID implemented under the Jammu and Kashmir Rural Livelihood Mission provides help to rural women. Rural women. Centrally sponsored scheme UMID जम्मू काश्मीर लिवलीहुड मिशन रूरल लिवलीहुड मिशन अंडर जोटा कि आसुची रूरल वुमेन मानक पई प्रायोरिटी से दोची. अंडर व्हिच पार्ट ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया आर द प्रोविजंस रिगार्डिंग द स्टेट पब्लिक सर्विस कमिशन SPSC मेंशन. स्टेट पब्लिक सर्विस कमिशन विषय मेंशन करा जायछि पार्ट 14 रे. Who describe the Directive Principles as a check on a bank payable only when the resources of the bank permit? किए कहिथिले Directive Principles as a check on bank payable only when the resources of the bank permit. K.T. Shah. Which of the following types of economic model did India follow after independence? Mixed economy combining public and private sector. एटा मने रखिबे बहुत इंपोर्टेंट रहइबो. ठीक अछि. Mixed economy combining public and private sectors. Which of the following was a major poverty alleviation and self-employment generation scheme launched by India in the 1990s? A question repeat हला. Question repeat हला. Repeat माने टॉपिक repeat हला कहया बोले. स्वर्ण जयंती ग्राम स्वराजगार योजना. Which country maintained a monopoly control over India's exports and imports before 1947? Which country maintained a monopoly? Obviously Britain होगा. एतरे किछि भाबिबार नहीं. The right to protection against arrest and detention in certain cases is mentioned under which article of the Constitution of India? Right to protection against arrest and detention in certain cases is mentioned under which article of the Indian Constitution? Answer will be article 22. सबु आर्टिकल ऊपर केमती क्वेश्चंस आसुची देखो. What does the term gram panchayat refer to in the context of a rural development in India? Gram panchayat refer to in the context of rural development in India. The grassroots level governing body in villages. The grassroots level governing body in villages. Which of the following articles in the Constitution of India relates to the formation of the National Commission for Scheduled Caste? Which of the following articles in the Constitution of India relates to the formation of the National Commission for Scheduled Caste? NCSC. Article 338. Which of the following concepts refer to a situation in which a company hires regular services from external sources, mostly from other countries, that were previously provided internally or from within the country? Which of the following concept refers to a situation in which a company hires regular services from external sources? Outsourcing taku kuhajibo. ठीक अछि. When did Chittaranjan locomotive works starts its production? Chittaranjan locomotive works starts its production 1950. Which of the following was primary cause of a slow agricultural growth in India after 1991? प्राइमरी कॉज कौन थिला डिक्लाइन इन पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट ए जगह अदर ऑप्शन भी पढ़िवा दरकार इंक्रीज इन गवर्नमेंट सब्सिडीज रिड्यूस फॉरेन एड डिक्लाइनिंग एग्रीकल्चरल एक्सपोर्ट ये सब गोटे गोटे काइंड ऑफ रीजन बट प्राइमरी कॉज पचारला देन डिक्लाइन इन पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट which of the following is correct concerning article 22 of the Indian constitution limits preventive detention to 3 months without review limits preventive detention to 3 months without review which of the following articles of the Indian constitution gives the president the power to suspend remit or commute sentences of a persons convicted of offenses article 72 most important both question ase article 72 pare in the calculation of the HDI index the minimum value of life expectancy is taken as how many years minimum value of life expectancy is taken as how many years 20 HDI index re how did the new exploration licensing policy NELP introduced in 1997 impact India's oil and gas sector? It promoted private and foreign investment in oil and gas exploration. It promoted private and foreign investment in oil and gas exploration. In August 2025, the Indian Parliament passed a new act to provide guaranteed wage employment to every rural household whose adult member volunteers to do unskilled manual work for a minimum of dash in a year. Guarantee wage 2005 रे guarantee wage 100 दिन पर्यंत दिया जीवो होना नहीं clear. The Green Revolution was initiated in the 1960s. Which of the following articles of the Indian Constitution relates to the establishment of a Public Service Commission for the Union and a state? Well, establishment of a Public Service Commission for the Union and states. Article 315. Which of the following articles of the Indian Constitution specifies that parliamentary proceedings shall be conducted in Hindi and English? Article 120. Which of the following was not a feature of the Indian industrial sector on the eve of independence? Kota feature nathila Indian industrial sector on the eve of independence. Only small scale and cottage industries were present. एटा केवल नथिला ठीक अछि. Which of the following is not one of the ways to acquire Indian citizenship? Natural ए क्वेश्चन पुनी रिपीट देखंतु. Naturalization थिला डिसेंट थिला बर्थ थिला बाय एग्रीमेंट हबनी आ गोटे कोन थिला या पूर्वरु ऑप्शन रे एक्विजिशन ऑफ लैंड थिला ना गोटे ऑप्शन रे सेटा भी हबनी ना. Under Article 11 of the Constitution of India, which authority has been empowered to regulate citizenship by law? Under Article 11 of the Constitution of India, which authority has been empowered to regulate citizenship by law? Parliament. Under Article 11 of the Constitution of India, which authority has been empowered to regulate citizenship by law? Parliament. Which of the following is a right guarantee under Article 19(1) of the Indian Constitution? Which of the following is a right guaranteed under Article 19(1) of the Indian Constitution? A right to freedom of speech and expression. A right to freedom of speech and expression. The right to privacy as recognized by the Supreme Court of India is protected under which article of the Indian Constitution? Right to privacy Article 21. ये तो डायरेक्ट होगा ये जगह रे आर्टिकल 19 ए पचला राइट टू फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन ये भी बहुत पॉपुलर. तो ये क्वेश्चन आपण देखि कि जानि पारुथबे जे को टाइप रो क्वेश्चन आपण आगु को फेस करिवे. इधर आपण डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन एमती पाई पारंती किंबा एई टाइप रो डिफरेंट क्वेश्चन आपण पाई पारंती किंतु सेही टॉपिक रो सेही एरिया रो बुझी होछि ना नाही. ठीक अच्छे. आई होप आपन हेल्पफुल है तो एटलिस्ट थीम क्वेश्चन रो थीम आपण जानि परिथिबे। तो वीडियो कंप्लीट देखिबार धन्यवाद। बेस्ट ऑफ लक टू ऑल।